Local Agency Formation Commission meeting to order. And I'd like the clerk to please conduct the roll call.
Yes, good morning. Commissioner Ward.
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Here.
Commissioner Hutt.
Here.
Commissioner Ignacio.
Still here.
Commissioner McCowan.
Here.
Commissioner, I'm sorry, I'm getting used to this being different. Chair Brown.
Here.
All right, Madam Chair, I believe we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. And for all those commissioners here at the meeting and alternates and staff, as well as the public, for today's meeting, we have a number of changes to our normal meeting procedures in response to COVID-19 pandemic emergency. Our meeting is being held remotely, as you know, by video and teleconference. Public viewing is via the live stream video link, which is available on the county's YouTube channel. The link is noted on the agenda and on our website at www.mendolafco.org/meeting documents. All commissioners and staff are participating remotely through Zoom. We've established procedures for public input by email with directions noted at the top of today's agenda. Any public wishing to submit comments, please email them to analyst@mendolafco.org, and that's analyst@mendolafco.org. And to help us accurately record today's meetings and actions, we'll employ the following points of order. The chair will call on each commissioner individually for comment and discussion in an orderly fashion. Commissioners making motions are asked to state their name for the record. Staff will be asked if any public comment has been received during each item. All comments received will be read into the record during the meeting and posted on our website under the agenda following the meeting. All actions requiring a vote will be conducted by roll call. So we're going to begin. If you're not speaking, if you can, put yourself on mute so there's not feedback. And we'll go to item number 2 on our agenda, and this is public expression. This is a time for any member of the public to address the commission on any matter, not on the agenda, but within the commission's area of jurisdiction. Comments on any item that is listed on the agenda should be given at the time that item is discussed by the commission. I'd like to note that any comments received by email will be read into the record and posted on the agenda website following the meeting. So we will go forward. Have we received any public comments?
Chair Brown, this is Analyst Tyler. There are no comments.
Thank you very much. So we will move on to item number 3 on our agenda, other business. I'd like to ask commissioners if there's any other business not included on the agenda. And if so, please speak up and state your name for the record. Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent. So there are 2 items on today's consent calendar. We have 4A, approval of the March 2nd, 2020 regular meeting summary, and 4B, approval of the March claims and financial report. So commissioners, I'd like to start. Mr. Orth, do you have comment?
No, I have no changes.
Thank you. Treasurer Ward, do you have comment?
No, I don't. I'd like to make 2 comments. The minutes were well done. She covered everything at that workshop and public hearing. I appreciate that. And the claims, I just want to say we could do a little better job on the bookkeeping. Hopefully our clerk can do more of the bookkeeping in the future, but I have no problems with either one.
Thank you. Commissioner Gonzalez.
No comment.
Commissioner Huff.
No comment, no changes on the consent calendar.
Thank you. Commissioner Ignacio.
Yes, comment. Well done, staff, on the content of the minutes, but I'd like to point out that there was a slight error on, I guess we're looking on page 3 of 44 at the draft. It jumps from 1 to 3, and then it changes the order on the following page. If we could just look to get that corrected between pages 3 and 5, I would adopt that numbering. Other than that, good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner McCowan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The minutes were exceptionally well done, and Commissioner Ignacio has noted the technical flaw there. If you have no one else to call on, I'd be happy to make a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception noted, or correction noted.
Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Ignacio seconds.
Thank you. Alternates, do we have any comment? Alternate Pizzanti?
Sorry, I don't have
That's
any.
all right.
Thank you.
Alternate Winkle?
No comment, thank you.
Okay. Then we're taking this to a vote. Can we have a roll call vote, please? Kristen?
Yes. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner Orth.
Yes.
Commissioner Huff.
Yes.
Commissioner Ignacio.
Yes.
Commissioner McCowan.
Yes.
Chair Brown.
Yes. Matter of procedure, we do have checks that need to be signed. Ms. Hinman, can you tell me how we're going to proceed with that?
Yes, we did talk with the bank, and if we can get one signature on the checks, they are willing to call call for a second signature. So perhaps we could work with one, perhaps Commissioner McCowan or Commissioner Ward to get that one, the first signature.
Okay. So
This is McCowan. I'm in town, so I'm happy to do it if I'm the most conveniently situated to do so.
I think that would be very good. And so Ms. Hinman, after our meeting today, can you make those arrangements with Commissioner McCowan?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So moving forward to item number 5, this is public hearing items. We have none. We are going to move forward to workshop items, and that is 6A, workshop on the preliminary budget and work plan for fiscal year 2020-2021. So the commission, this is a workshop for consideration, and this is the second workshop on the preliminary budget and work plan. So commissioners, we're going to have a staff presentation, and after the presentation, we'll open the floor to receive any public comments, and commissioners have questions, that would be the time for them to ask as well. And I will call on each of you. So staff, please go forward with your presentation.
Thank you. On March 2nd, the commission discussed the preliminary budget and work plan for fiscal year 2020.
Excuse me for 1 minute. you're kind of blurry, so I'm going to ask everyone to please go on mute except Ms. Hinman. Please go forward. Are we still connected?
Uma is muted. There she goes.
There. Okay. Thank you. Trying to manage all of this. During the March 2nd meeting, the Commission gave direction to staff to schedule a second workshop for the Commission discussion of the budget with specific direction to present the preliminary budget with apportionment options at $160,000 and $170,000, and also to coordinate with legal counsel to refine the budget item for legal counsel services, which is account number 6300. So the total budget proposed is $176,400. The proposed budget includes an expenditure plan that is increased from the current fiscal year budget by approximately $16,000, which is approximately 10% increase. The changes are summarized in tables 1 and 2 of the staff report, which is on pages 24 and 25 of your agenda packet. These supplies and services would increase by about $6,400 over the current fiscal year. The increased cost items include memberships with CALAFCO, our liability insurance, and our A87 costs with the county, as well as an increase in commissioner stipends. Since the March 2nd workshop, we received notice from our insurance carrier that the insurance will increase by 174%. The reason stated was an overall increase was necessary due to worldwide catastrophic losses. The basic services for contract staff costs would remain the same as the current level of for fiscal year 2019-20. We are proposing a cost for legal counsel, an increase in legal counsel costs by approximately $3,000 to account for an increase in hourly rate to $225 an hour, and also an increase from 3 hours to 4 hours of counsel time per month averaged over the year. This is consistent with the increased amount of time averaged over this past year. The last rate increase for legal counsel was in 2017. There's also an increase proposed for the work plan. The increase would be approximately $6,700, which $5,000 of that is expected to be rollover from the current fiscal year for the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District MSR and Sphere update. The proposed work plan includes completion of the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District update and completion of the MSR Sphere updates initiated in the next fiscal year for the City of Ukiah, Ukiah Valley Fire Protection District, and the Covelo Community Services District. During the March 2nd workshop, the Commission directed staff to present the apportionments at $160,000 and $170,000. Those are presented in Table 3 of the staff report on page 26 of your agenda packet. As far as the budget process, LAFCO law provides that the Commission must adopt a proposed budget by May 1. Today's staff is requesting the Commission approve the preliminary budget and provide direction regarding appropriations. Apportionments, excuse me. The proposed budget will then be circulated to all cities, special districts, and the county, and a public hearing on the proposed budget will be held on May 4th. The second hearing will be held on June 1st to consider the final budget. LAFCO's budget calendar ensures a period of at least 2 months between the preliminary budget workshop and the final budget adoption. The agenda and staff report for today's workshop was emailed to all interested parties. No comments were received prior to this meeting. Are there any questions for staff?
Okay, I would like to ask first, have we had any public comment? And if so, I'd like it read into the record, please.
Chair Brown, this is Analyst Filer. There are no public comments to report.
Thank you very much. So we'll start going through the commission. Vice Chair Orth, comments, questions?
Yes, on page 25, due to the emergency, I think our budget needs to be reevaluated in terms of televised meetings, in-county travel and stipends, travel lodging expenses, and conferences. I believe we can net probably increase televised meetings, but decrease substantially the other three columns of in-county. That's 6740, 6750, and 6800 line items for a potential savings up to 12,500. I think based upon current conditions, it's unlikely those areas will be needed budget consideration until there's a vaccine. So I'll open that up for comment.
Okay, I'd like to go to Treasurer Ward.
Yeah, I would agree. I agree with that comment. I have redone I was redoing the 3 months remaining, and I came up with a remaining of $11,877 based on some reductions. I did not reduce the travel and lodging and all, but instead of 8,000, I came up with 11,000. And based on my computations, I believe the 160,000 apportionment fees could work. That's all I have to say at this time.
Thank you. Commissioner Gonzalez.
I agree with Commissioner Orth. I didn't do the level of study that Commissioner Ward did, but I think in light of this crisis hitting up all the agencies at this point with a big hit, I think we're not going to look good. And I think the landscape's changing. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Huff.
I agree with Commissioner Orth's comments on this. I don't see us really going anywhere over the next year with everything that's going on. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Ignacio.
I appreciate Commissioner Orth's approach to evaluating this, very detailed. I'd also like to remind the commission that this is a proposed budget. If it is adopted, and I would urge that we move for adoption sooner than later, rather than going back for another round of discussion beyond the public comment. I would support what the commission unanimously would move forward on as far as the number. And if 160 is the number, I can support that. So good job. Thank you.
Commissioner McCowan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, certainly the budget, I think, requires adjustment in light of what we're experiencing. And I want to acknowledge Commissioner Orth for bringing an item forward on March 2nd. I honestly hadn't quite foreseen the total implications of this at that point. However, and I think it's also very foreseeable that there will be no return to normalcy through April, May, probably June. But at some point, the restrictions are going to be eased, even though there won't be a vaccine probably for a year. So I do agree, though, that the budget numbers can be reworked, and I think we certainly have time to do that in a reasonably deliberative manner. We're scheduled, I think, for another public hearing May 4th, and then for the final adoption June 1st. I also questioned the increase in legal fees, and it's true, we're looking at, well, the increase in legal fees ought to be offset by revenue from the applicants who are triggering those increases. I think that's part of our policy. So I think we could scrutinize that line item as well. And I did come into this meeting with the idea that probably all public jurisdictions are going to see a potentially significant hit in their revenue, certainly cities and counties, maybe somewhat less so special districts. And yet they may have increased expenses in some ways also. I would actually support directing staff to rework the budget with an apportionment of $150,000. So it's still a modest increase over what it has been, but it softens the blow. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Alternate Pisani.
Hi, I'm having a little bit of trouble. So I agree with Commissioner Ward and do believe that we need to adjust the budget. But otherwise, I agree with everything else.
Thank you. Alternate Winkle.
I do agree. That's it. Make it.
Thank you. Ms. Hinman, would you like to respond to any of the comments?
I have no response at this time.
Okay. Then I want to go to our analyst filer. Have we received any more public comment as we're discussing this item?
Madam Chair, there's no further public comments to report.
Thank you. So I'll bring it back to the commission for discussion. My comment is I do agree with Vice Chair Orth, but there are two budget amounts that have been proposed. One is $160,000 for the year. The other is $150,000 for the year. So, commissioners, I'll go through one more time. So each of you can chime in on what is being discussed here for our budget total. Vice Chair Orth.
I support the Ward, Commissioner Ward's recommended 160.
Okay. Treasurer Ward.
Madam Chair, I will put together my analysis I did over the weekend and send it out to our executive officer so she can pass it out to the rest. But I believe the 160 is fine. But if we do away with the travel and the conferences, which I don't think will probably be going to Monterey this year, conceivably we could get down to 150 and still meet our requirement for our reserves. So I'll put that together if you wish, Madam Chair, and I can go along with the 150 if we're not going to go to Monterey.
Thank you, and I'd like to hear from the rest of the commission. Commissioner Gonzalez.
I think if Commissioner Ward can shave some money off of that, I would go with the 150, but if you have to go with 160, then I would go with that.
Thank you. Commissioner Huff.
I agree with the account 6740, 50, and 6800 being reduced. Again, like I said earlier, I don't think we're going to go anywhere with all this going on. Staff does make a comment that they're increasing the legal counsel apportionment and anticipation of more complex issues. I'm sure that there's some history behind that, and they have a reason for bringing that up. And they are bringing it up by 1 hour a month, not doubling it or anything like that. So I would keep the legal counsel increased. But other than that, I agree with Commissioner Gonzalez. If we need to go to the 160, we can, but it looks like we're going to take a big chunk out of that with getting rid of the stipends, travel, and conferences. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Ignacio.
I appreciate everybody's comments up to this point. I would support the 160. I would also remind the commission that coming to 6 months from now, we'll be having a mid-year budget review, at which time we can revise the budget as well.
Thank you. Commissioner McCowan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do support moving in the direction of 150. I think we all acknowledge that Commissioner Ward has a pretty clear grasp of the budget, and I think we could encourage him to work with staff and perhaps we already have what 160 would look like, but with some of the revisions in mind, maybe bring back an option for 150. And if in his judgment that's reasonable, I think the people who have to pay the bills, the cities, districts, and the county, would all appreciate the more modest increase in the apportionment. So definitely support the 150 if in Treasurer Ward's judgment that's reasonable. And he says he thinks we can still maintain our reserves as well. So the reason you have reserves is in case you run a little bit short. So in these difficult times, I think having our reserve as a backup justifies having a lower apportionment for the other entities. Thank you.
Thank you. Alternate Zani.
I do believe the 150 with the revisions is the best idea.
Thank you. Alternate Winkle.
I like the 150. We are going to re-look at this in 6 months, and we could adapt then. But this looks like it's fairly well thought out with the information we have at the time. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Commission, somebody else, do you have further comment?
Yes, this is Scott Brown. I just would like to clarify that once you set your budget, your final budget, you have no ability to ask for additional money during the course of the year. So you would only have a choice of using reserves. So there is a mid-year budget adjustment would simply be moving money from reserves into the operational budget. It would not allow you to increase the allocations from the agencies until the following fiscal year.
Thank you for pointing that out because that is correct. Appreciate it. As chair, I'm leaning towards the 150 given the circumstances we're in. And yes, we do have a reserve, so we'll just have to watch our spending. I think we have a majority with direction to staff. Ms. Hinman, can you comment back, please?
Thank you. I do understand the direction to remove the expenditures for the travel and lodging and expenses and the conferences. A question for clarification on the in-county travel and stipends. Would that be a reduction or would that be removing the budget from that line item?
Treasurer Ward?
The reduction, that would be a reduction in the in-county travel, assuming, because we're not going to have these meetings for the next fiscal year every time through telecommunications. So, but it will be reduced for the next 3 months, that I think for this year's budget. But next year it could be reduced depending on how long this lasts.
So Treasurer Ward, you are going to send in a worksheet to our staff, is that correct?
Yes, I am. I'll work on that. I've got it all written out. I'll just have to type it up, and I will get it to our executive officer so she could then get it out to the rest of the commissions. I do want to make a comment with Scott Brown's comment. Our work plan for this fiscal year remains at $25,800 right now. I'm not sure in the next 3 months, and this is a question to our executive officer, are you going to spend 25,000 or actually 20,000 because you're going to push 5,000 into next year? Are you going to spend 20,000 in the next 3 months?
I do believe we're going to come close. We are, with the close in the office, we have refocused our efforts on the work plan and are making progress on that. So it depends somewhat on how much information we get, when we get information back from some of the agencies, but I do believe we are making a push on the work plan for the rest of this fiscal year.
Okay. So, Madam Chair, the amount we're estimated for next year is 48,000. If we do come up with a mid-year, as Mr. Brown said, that we need to, we can't put more money into the account. We can't push on some of our work plan to the following year, since we are caught up, as everyone said, with our MSRs, SOIs. So we do have the ability to push some of that expense the next year so we can meet our budget expectations.
Thank you for that comment. Anyone else for their comment?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner McCowan.
Thank you. Commissioner Ward, based on your last comment that we not only have the reserves, which I believe are approximately 75,000 or projected to be in that range, and then the ability to make adjustments to the work plan if need be, but also bearing in mind we generally also have a surplus at the end of the year. Are you comfortable going forward with 150,000 for the apportionment?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with it. It's going to be tight, but there's a lot of unknowns on whether we're going to spend all the money on the work plan this year. Obviously, I had some questions about the A87 costs that went up significantly. A year ago, it was $0. This last year was $1,600. Now we're budgeting $2,300. Those kind of things need to be dealt with. I don't understand those kind of things, but I have evaluated it, and 150 can be reachable with a reserve of approximately 44,000, which would be about 25% of the expenses.
Thank you, Commissioner Ward. Well, I would certainly support the 150, knowing that we will still have significant reserves, and if we have to adjust the apportionment in the following year, it's a vote of the commission to do so.
Thank you. And so I think we have completed this agenda item, and staff has direction for the proposed budget and work plan for FY 2020-2021. That information needs to be conveyed to the county, cities, and special districts, and that is for preparation for our public hearing that will be held on May 4th, 2020, and our meeting will begin at 9 a.m. So I believe we have all the information that we need, and staff has their direction. But I would like to ask one more time, Ms. Hinman, do you have any further comment?
No further comment. I'll work with Treasurer Ward on the letter and getting out the budget information to the agencies.
Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you, Treasurer Ward. And I'm I expect us to be ready for our agenda mail out for our May 4th meeting. Okay, moving on, matters for discussion and possible action. We have 7A, Sustainable Agricultural Land Conservation Grant Project Agreement for Services. Staff, can you please give us a presentation?
Thank you. In September of 2019, the Mendocino County Department of Agriculture and the Mendocino County Resource Conservation District, in partnership with a number of agencies throughout the county, including LAFCO, submitted a proposal for the Sustainable Agricultural Lands Conservation Planning Grant through the Department of Conservation. In December, the Department of Conservation awarded the grant project in the amount of $208,600. On March 23rd, the County Department of Agriculture approved the Board of Supervisors approved the grant agreement with Department of Conservation, and the Department of Agriculture entered into agreement with the Mendocino County Resource Conservation District to be the fiscal and administrating agent for the project. The Mendocino County RCD is in the process of establishing agreements for services with each of its partners. The draft agreement for services between LAFCO and the RCD is before the Commission for consideration today and is included in the agenda packet on page 33 of 46. The agreement lays out LAFCO's role as the lead for task 4 of the project, which is to increase communication with diverse stakeholders regarding the coalescence of agricultural land conservation and sustainable housing development. LAFCO's budget is $14,200, $10,200 of which will be reimbursed through the grant, and $4,000 of which will be match funding documented through our typical activities and application processing. The project is a zero-sum item and will not impact the budget. Time spent on the project will be documented and provided to the RCD as part of the reporting requirements for the grant. Our attorney, Scott Brown, has reviewed the agreement, and his changes have been incorporated into the draft that is in the packet today on page 33. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Chair Brown, that completes my presentation. Are you on mute?
Chair Brown?
Oh, thank you. I was calling everyone. I couldn't understand why they weren't responding. Thank you. Vice Chair Orrs, questions, comments?
I support this, and I will note that MCOG today will be recommending to action of its commission adopting a new housing power as part of the MCOG process. So we should all realize there's a lot of movement towards housing, especially due to this emergency. Certainly the homeless is one of those issues. But we need to move forward in looking at ag lands, and this process is no impact to our budget, and I think it's a very valued service moving forward.
Thank you. Treasurer Ward.
Executive Officer. I have did you hear me? I have 3 or 4 questions for our Executive Officer and possibly our council. Number 1, could I get a better explanation of how the $4,000 would be returned to us? And after that answer, I have a couple more questions.
Response.
The 4,000 would be thank you. The 4,000 would be in-kind services and would be accounted for through our normal activities. Anytime we work on a sphere of influence update, for example, through the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District project, as well as the City of Ukiah sphere updates, as we evaluate the agricultural lands for those, we would account for that time and submit it as part of our in-kind services. So there would be no additional charges associated with that match funding requirement.
Okay, thank you. The agreement says that LAFCO is the contractor and that it's not assignable. Is this going to be LAFCO or is it going to be your staff providing this information? Because you are an independent contractor to LAFCO.
Correct. And my understanding is that this would be qualified as a special project under which is allowed for in my contract as well as our attorney's contract.
Okay, because the agreement says that the agreement cannot be assigned without the approval of the others. So I assume you're going to seek assignment approval to your staff.
Perhaps our attorney could weigh in on the nuances of that language.
I think that language would be read as LAFCO is referring to its staff, which are contract staff. So it's not technically an assignment.
Okay, what about, Scott, the indemnification that's required of it? How do you feel about that?
Well, initially it was a one-sided indemnification where we indemnified them, but they didn't indemnify us. I added a second paragraph that would require them to indemnify us as well. And with that, I believe indemnification is a fairly normal part of these kinds of contracts, but it has to be even-handed. So
Sure.
I think with the language that I added, I believe the indemnification is acceptable.
And next question, do we have public liability insurance of $1 million? Because that's what's required.
Yes, I believe we do.
You do? Okay. Last question, sorry for all the questions. The Smart Sheet software program, is that something we have to purchase?
No, it's provided through the Resource Conservation District and no cost to us to use it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm done.
Thank you, Treasurer Ward. Commissioner Gonzalez, any questions, comments?
Well, based on what Commissioner Ward got out of all of this, I would move staff's recommendations and make a motion.
Hey, Commissioner Huff.
No, I have no questions for this. I think this falls, and I believe I brought this up with the meeting when our executive officer proposed this, but this falls right within LAFCO's wheelhouse of, open lands and agricultural lands. So I support this.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Ignacio.
No comment, has my support. And did Commissioner Gonzalez make a motion, did I hear?
Well, I would like to go through all the commissioners first, please. Commissioner McCowan.
I do support moving forward to this. I appreciate Commissioner Ward's detailed review of the contract. I trust that his questions have been answered to his satisfaction. I think it's a very worthwhile endeavor. Thank you.
And we'll go to our alternates for any statements, questions, further comments. Alternate Bazanti.
No comment.
Thank you. Alternate Winkle.
Also no comment. Thank you.
Thank you. I think everything's been covered in my mind. I also sit on that particular committee for the county. So I want to go back to Commissioner Gonzalez.
I would restate my motion to recommend staff's recommendations or follow staff's recommendations.
Thank you, sir. Do we have a second?
This is Commissioner Huff. I'll second.
Thank you, sir. Staff, you have that. I probably should ask, has any public comment come in?
Madam Chair, there's no public comment related to this item, but I am now public comment for the budget item, which we will attach online afterwards.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't get, you were cutting out.
Just wanted to note for the record that there is no public comment for this item, but I am now seeing a comment for the budget item, which we can attach to the agenda after the hearing or after the meeting.
Okay, and staff will get back to the commenter?
That is correct.
Okay, because it did come in a little bit late.
Correct.
Okay. So we do have a motion and a second, and it's for the recommended action. Please conduct the roll call vote.
Commissioner McCowan? Commissioner McCowan?
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you. Commissioner Ignacio?
Yes.
Commissioner Huff?
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Commissioner Orth?
Yes.
Chair Brown?
Yes. Okay, moving forward to item number 8 on our agenda, it's information and report items. We'll first go to 8A, work plan, current and future proposals. Staff, please give your report.
Thank you. I'll start off with the applications. The Uyghur application was approved at the March 2nd hearing. We did file the CEQA notice of exemption that same day. We are now coordinating with the county surveyor and GIS to review the map prior to submittal to the Board of Equalization. We're also doing a final accounting for the applicant. Payment of all outstanding fees and the Board of Equalization filing fees are required prior to issuing the certificate of completion and submitting the map to the Board of Equalization. The other application we have on file is the Bill Moore's application for annexation to the Irish Beach Water District. We are coordinating with Mr. Moore's and the Irish Beach Water District on the application requirements. No change to the future or on projects on hold. The work plan, we are progressing with the County Service Area 3 MSR and Sphere update. We're working through the administrative draft. The COVID emergency may delay our efforts to gather information from the county, but we are getting it to the point possible. The Mendocino City Community Services District MSR and Sphere update, we do have the draft document ready for the workshop. We had anticipated bringing it forward for today's meeting for a workshop, but we did delay that due to the emergency to see how the following workshop, the following meeting date would work out. The Ukiah Valley Sanitation District, because of the emergency, the district has been delayed in getting us the requested information. We will be following up with them again this week and hope to have that information this month so that we can move forward with that one. Because of the delays with the other work plan items, we are moving forward with the Covelo Community Services District request for information. We did send that out last week and have already started receiving some information back in. If there are further delays with some of the other work plan products, we will be moving forward on the administrative draft for that one as well. I don't have any further updates on this item. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And I just took myself off mute. I'm glad I remembered that time. So commissioners, any questions, comments?
I have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
My question is, what's the time to file a challenge on the Wagner detachment? When will we be free and clear?
Well, the CEQA, because we filed a notice of exemption on the CEQA, that is a 35 day window. And then it's a 30-day reconsideration period, so that has passed.
Any further questions, Vice Chair Orth?
Negative.
Thank you. Moving on, commissioners, alternates.
Question from Jerry Ward.
Go ahead, Treasurer Ward.
Uma, in the next 3 months, obviously a lot of things have been shut down. You stated earlier that you think you could spend the rest of the work plan money this fiscal year, but could we get a pretty good accounting of where you would be at for the next 3 months when you discuss with those people that need the work plan completed, just so we can have an idea how much we might end up with the at the end of the year? I think a lot of people are sheltering now and not really spending a lot of time, so I don't know if that's going to be inhibiting you from trying to get your work done. It'd be helpful so we could make a decision before the public hearing next month on our budget.
I will reach out and ask those questions.
Thank you.
And I do believe many offices are working remotely. And if they're a small office, I believe staff is going into many of the districts. At least that's my understanding. But it would be good to have an update. Anyone else?
If I could just raise an issue that if we're going to have workshops and public hearings in the future, I would like to see if the commission would be interested in having staff explore making it possible for the public to call in and make a comment rather than by email, because I am concerned that how can you hold a public hearing if people can't actually speak at the public hearing?
So please state your name for the record.
Scott.
Okay. Any other comments? Staff, would you like to respond?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner McCowan.
Thank you. I do support Commissioner Ward's comment, and I understand, many jurisdictions are struggling with this issue. County staff is so involved with responding to the current emergency. It's been difficult to marshal the resources to bring up a county system allowing for live comment, given that typically a larger number of people on controversial issues may wish to call in at the county. I believe staff is working to resolve that so that we'll have that capability in the future. But my understanding for entities that tend to get the lower level of public participation, that it is feasible to have live call-in for public comment. And I would encourage staff to research those options. I think, as you note, Commissioner Ward, it's especially important if we're going into public hearings. We really should do everything we can to have that capability if it's technically feasible, and I believe it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Chair Brown, this is Uma Hinman. We have been working closely with County Information Services, who we did get this Zoom license through. They are in the process of getting a webinar component for the Zoom, which will allow for that participation from the public by call in. So that is in process. We were not able The county was not able to get that license in place, that component in place in time for this meeting, but I believe they are expecting that in the next week or two.
Thank you for the update. All right. Moving forward, under our report items, no correspondence been received. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, item number 8C, our executive officer report. Please go forward, Ms. Hinman.
Thank you. In response to the COVID emergency, the office and Ukiah Valley Conference Center building are closed to the public. We are working remotely and are checking mail and phone messages regularly. Our clerk is going into the office once or twice a week just to check for those. We have received a Public Records Act request, so we'll be working on that this week and next. We have posted the temporary office closure on our website and did send that out to all of the special district and interested parties on our email list. And that's all I have, unless there are some questions.
Commissioners, any questions?
Madam Chair, just curiosity, could you briefly say the nature of the Public Records Act request? Thank
And
you.
for the record, that is Commissioner McCowan. Ms. Hinman?
Yes, we received a Public Records Act request for information related to the City of Ukiah's application for detachment of Ukiah Valley Sanitation District lands that has been on file for a number of years.
Thank you. Any other questions of staff? Hearing none, we'll move on to 8D. This is committee reports. I do not believe any of our committees, I know the executive committee has not met. Any committee reports? Hearing
There was no meeting of
none.
the policies and procedures.
Pardon?
I was just clarifying there was no meeting of the Policies and Procedures Committee either.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to interrupt you. Moving on to 8E, Commissioners' reports. Any comments or questions? Commissioners? Hearing none. 8F, CALAFCO business legislation, legislative report. Ms. Hinman, do we have anything?
Just briefly, I wanted to let the commission know that the CALAFCO executive director has provided a lot of support in the last month, including webinars and teleconferences to support LAFCOs through this closure, particularly related to the Brown Act requirements and office operations in general, and responding to public records requests. So I wanted to just thank them on the record for all of that support. It's been very helpful for staff. There is a CALAFCO bulletin in the agenda packet on page 45 and 46. They have kept us up to date with the executive orders coming down through the state. And also to let folks know that the FPPC has extended the Form 700 filing deadline to June 1st of this year. So if there's any commissioners that have not yet returned that into our office, and as a reminder, we do need the wet signed form, they have until June 1st to do so. And that's all I have. Oh, the CALAFCO workshop was canceled for this year. There's been no word yet on the, I'm sorry, on the CALAFCO conference in Monterey yet.
Thank you, commissioners. Any questions of staff? Hearing none, we're at the end of our meeting, but I would like to remind everyone that the next commission meeting will be held on May 4th. Location to be determined upon guidelines established by the Mendocino County Public Health Officer and the executive orders regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. And I want to thank all of you. This is my first time to chair a Zoom meeting. I think all of you did wonderful. I just only had one hiccup along the way. So thank you, everyone, and we'll be back at some point in person, but we'll have to wait to see if that is May 4th. So with no further business, I'll adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Chair.
Good job, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We're adjourned.